Well, thank you so much for being here, Melina. I can't wait for us to dig in. Tell my audience more about how your journey to this.
Yeah, so my background is I got my undergraduate degree in business administration with a focus in marketing. And I had my very last class, I think, or near the end, there was one section and one book just barely touching on the concept of sort of behavioral psychology and how people end up making buying decisions and how it influences. And it was just a tiny little thing, but it really resonated with me. And I knew at that point that I wasn't going to pursue an MBA whenever I went back to school. It was just, this area of focus was what I wanted. But I spent the better part of 10 years looking for programs in it and nothing existed. I called universities. They didn't have anything. It wasn't a field yet. And so a couple of years ago when I found behavioral economics, I was so excited that it finally existed. And I got into what I know is the first online program with a degree specifically in behavioral economics. And I think it might still be the only one. But here in the state of Washington, they don't even have behavioral economics as a major at any university yet. So
I love it.
Very new.
Yeah, it's a disruptor too, because it's like we can take what we've all known about sales and marketing and all this stuff, and then we take all we know about psychology and really putting all that together. It's not two different realms, but most of the time we only know one side or the other, and then we learn the other one, right? We're starting to learn it by just trial and error, right?
Absolutely. And then you get into the space of economics, which as a marketer, I was not super excited that was the term that they used on the name, of the field, but it truly is. And that what causes people to make decisions in general. And it's fascinating to learn how just really tiny tweaks, and I talk about a lot. There's the one study that was done where a difference of one word made a 38% difference in sales. And so you could be doing 99.9% of everything right, and you have this one thing that you could just make a tiny tweak and it could have a huge impact. And that's what I work with my clients and what I speak about, just letting people know what some of these rules are of how the brain makes decisions across humans as a species, so that we can, and how you can apply that into your business.
Yeah. And I love that you make it's more of an experiential exercise. So I was listening to your podcast. Can you tell our audience what your podcast is?
Yes, it's called The Brainy Business, Understanding the Psychology of Why People Buy.
I love it. And in there, you're saying it's not about the cookies. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I love that analogy.
Yeah. So It's Not About the Cookie series was a set of 3 episodes that started with the truth about pricing, and then how to sell from the stage, which obviously applies with this group here. And then another that is about change management. So all of those conversations that you have that don't actually involve an exchange of money, you're still having to sell somebody on what your position is and get them to buy in. And so it's not about the cookies concept is essentially that people, it's not about the price. That's the truth, right? So the truth about pricing is it's not about the price. It's not about the product you're selling. It's really about building everything that comes before the actual price comes up. So I give an example of this. So the cookies scenario. So let's say Aaron, you and I were walking down the street having a great conversation about behavioral economics. And then all of a sudden we can smell chocolate chip cookies in the air, and your brain starts looking actively, trying to find what is that? Ooh, what's that? That smells good. And then we happen to find the storefront. You go inside, you see that there's a line, which makes you think, oh, these must be really good cookies. And someone gives you a free sample, and then they show you this coupon that it's buy 3, get 1 free for today only. And you're so excited. And by the time we know it, we walk out and we each have, 4 cookies each or whatever it is. And it doesn't really matter how much they cost, because the subconscious brain really bought that before we even got to the store. And the flip scenario, so if all the same things happen, but in the opposite order, where we're walking down the street and someone starts accosting us with a flyer of free, cookies, buy 3, get 1 free today, blah, then even if he had samples, by the time you get to the storefront and you smell the cookies, it's not, you're already turned off by what's happening there because your conscious brain was negatively flagged first instead of your subconscious getting interested and excited. And so using that concept and framework, I build out how you would price items. And I give a lot of tips about how the brain works for that. And then, like I said, selling from the stage is really no different. And then that change management aspect.
Yeah, I love it. So if people are selling from stage, because I always talk about you got to really deeply connect with your audience, like you're talking about using that brain and how people are motivated in buying and the purchasing decision making process is what is the biggest key that you think most speakers bomb at? Because we know they bomb at it.
So the worst thing would be if you're in a space, so you need to know the audience you're speaking to and the organizers that brought you there and whether it is okay to be selling things or not and how they want that presented. And knowing that, again, with that change management setup, that there are things you can sell. You can be selling your position, getting people on your list, things like that, without throwing an offer at them. So one of the things that I do, I typically, when I'm speaking, I'm doing informational type sessions at conferences and things like that. And I know people don't really want me to be throwing out prices and things like that. And I don't really like to do that anyway. For me, it's more about that long game, getting people to listen to the podcast or to download my free ebook, which I talk about at every session I do. And that's just more free content, more opportunities to engage with me and get people to understand what behavioral economics is and why it matters to them. Because for me, it really is a longer sell. And the thing that I've seen that people do that is just the worst. I remember I was at a conference once and they had a session that had a really great name to it. It was something along the lines of what's hot in marketing today or something, the top 5 trends, something like that. And then got in sitting in this session and it was a demo of the vendor's product for the whole hour, just trying to sell you on this thing. And she didn't even talk about anything that was a hot trend. I mean, it was very much a bait and switch. So I think that would be the worst way. And I talk about it in the episode. It's episode 7, I think is the one about the sales from the stage, how to sell from the stage. But it's the smell of the cookies in that sense is everything before your talk. Really, it's the headline, the description that's going to be in the brochure, making sure people are excited to come and speak with you, and then your presence so that you're not selling the whole time.
Right. Well, and for me, I always say you have to build that know, like, and trust, right? So
absolutely.
So last year I was speaking down at eWomen Tucson. So the week before I got with the managing director and did a interview like this with her and let people ask questions and get to know me better and get to see me. And so when I showed up that day, I wasn't a complete stranger. So I'm already building in time. That was a 40-minute talk or conversation. Then I get there and I do a 20-minute talk where you cannot sell. And then I also am bringing them to the table because I was offering what are they? The ring lights. And so everyone comes over like, tell me about these ring lights. So before the event starts, everyone's around my table looking at these ring lights and asking me about ring lights and live video and blah, blah, blah. So then now I'm up there. I do my 20 minutes. I gift them, if you want to have more of this information, you want my slides, here, sign up on my email list. I will send things to you. If you do not want that, just fold the top of your card. So I will not put you on my email list. I will just send you these slides. I have never had someone ever fold the top of their card.
Right.
And so, because I'm upfront and honest about it. And they like that, Right. And so that now I've built this big relationship. So then at the end of that, all I said was at my table, the next day, I'm still going to be here in Tucson. I have a location set up. I'm going to do a 2-3 hour workshop. It's $97. come and enjoy it. So I sold like 10, 15 of those. They came, and then you can sell them the bigger package. Cause now I've spent like 4 or 5 hours with these people. Right. And so now they know me. They know what it's like to work with me. They've seen the process. They've seen my stuff. Now they're ready.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's little bits. I did episode 3 is about lead magnets, and that all very much applies. The concept behavioral economics wise, it's called reciprocity. And when you give somebody something, even small things, I use examples of mints when you're going to a restaurant in a study that was done there where it was just amazing that 2 mints and a little bit of a personal acknowledgement increased tips by, I think, 26%, which is ridiculous. It's far above the cost of the mints or the time it takes to stop. But that small gesture and personalizing it is such a huge thing for somebody to feel like they want to give back to you. And whether that's in the form of buying services or listening to a podcast or rating, reviewing, sharing, all those things that, we all are asking so much of people these days. And it can be easy to forget that there's a person on the other side of that, and we want to engage with them. And as my husband was giving me the advice of, as you set everything up and are going through, he's like, just don't big time people. You want to be on this level playing field and just be willing to give. If the scheduling software is not the best way, then don't use the scheduling software, because you want to treat somebody like a person for what it is that they need. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's really important. It's like I go to the sushi place and I love it because they give me a warm towel before I start, right? It's so simple and little. And maybe they pay a little bit in laundry, but that's it. It makes you feel special.
Exactly. The place where I get my nails done, they offer, every time I'm in there, the guy is saying, oh, you let us know that we have complimentary mimosas and wine. If you want, a glass of wine, anybody wants that, we have it here. And they have sodas and water and whatever. And most people don't take them up on the offer. I did when I went there right before I got married. And so, we all had mimosas and whatnot. And it was a fun experience. So they probably have champagne that just sits in the fridge, 98% of the time, and then somebody wants one and it's good to go. But it's a thing, that they do it, and they care a little bit more. They put in just a tiny bit more effort, and it makes a difference if you're going to refer people to them and things like that.
For sure. I love that. So if you have a difference between, if you had the option, if someone was saying, okay, you can speak and sell from the front, or you can speak and sell from the back, what do you think? This is interesting. I've never thought about this question because I don't know if I've ever even tested this on myself. What would be higher conversion rates? Same talk, just one has an offer at the end and one doesn't, because one would be just come back to the table and have more conversation or whatever.
Yeah, it depends on the group, I think, for sure. And if it's one that is primed for giveaways, and if you are able to communicate, really high, that type of value and whatnot, and you put the tools together. So like you were talking about eWomen when you were down there in Tucson. I'm actually speaking at eWomen Seattle next week. And I was just at the conference in Dallas a few weeks ago, and the people sell from that stage like nobody's business, and you're expecting them to do it, but and 6-figure
sales, like
bananas.
6 figures. Yes,
I know.
This isn't just little potatoes here, people.
And I talk about that in the Truth About Pricing, and then in the Selling from the Stage, because that's the thing where I was looking at doing a membership group, and before I went into the podcast, and when I was talking about that, and I had somebody tell me that, no entrepreneurs are going to pay $20 a month to be in a membership group. That's too expensive. And then you get, well, I mean, it's not really that expensive, but okay, I'll keep that in mind. And then you see people selling, like you said, 5-6-figure packages from the front of the stage, and there's a horde. Everyone is trying to clamor to buy this thing. That's where it's not about the price of the thing, and it's about value. That's episode 8 of the podcast just came out by the time we're recording here. And it's about what is value, and what's the difference between value and price, and how do you build that value to get it to where, again, the price is very much secondary or tertiary or whatever it is. So I think if you have one of those big offers, like you see at those type of conferences like eWomen, then being able to sell it from the stage with the thing that's being handed out or the special code, the thing right now, they did a really good combination of a couple things there. And there was one that was really fascinating that Sandra Yancey was talking about this program that she had, and you had to sign up before the end of the break, which was like 20 minutes at this thing at the back of the room, and commit yourself to the package. And then everybody who's in the room can see the line forming back there. It makes you think, oh, should I have taken advantage of that? Because that's the only reason they're there. Mm-hmm. So I think that combo does a really nice job.
For sure. And I will be honest, this is the way that I don't think it's a trick, but it's kind of like one of those things. So selling ring lights for $20. Mm-hmm. And then I have people's books that maybe not even my book. I have a table. And so people will line up and people don't know what they're buying. Like some of the people in the back, they don't know if they're signing up for coaching. They're buying that, they're buying this. It's the line, the perceived value of a line.
Exactly.
Is huge.
Absolutely. It is. That's when I used to work at the credit union, we did a promotion for a while at events, and what's the random little swag item that you want to be giving out at the event. And we actually did for a while, we did $1 bills with sticky notes. And I've actually done this with another client of mine that's an accounting firm, and it works really well to where people get the $1 bill and they go crazy, even though it's worth less than the thing you would buy, a pen or, this whatever thing that you'd be giving away. Yeah. Random junk, really. Things that people throw away.
A swag bag is really a bag of junk.
It is
branded stuff.
I know. And the dollar is worth less in comparison, but it's that cold hard cash. Someone's willing to give me this money I could go do something with that makes people, and we would always have huge lines, even where people next to us are giving away prizes that are, $10 a piece or whatever it is. And people, that cash factor was a really big motivator. And it's interesting to see how that will drive behavior.
I love that. That's a great idea. I think I'm going to have to do that. I'm like,
it's a good one.
I like that, mm-hmm. And if they're all looking around like, ooh, how many dollars would they have to put out here? Like in my events, I have like 200 people in my events. I'm like, ooh, $200, that's nothing. If it means they're going to line up to sign up for the $1,000 package or
Yeah. So so you do the dollar, I've printed custom sticky notes that say, bring this to redeem for a prize or something if you are putting things in a bag at a larger event. And then people can come in, and I've done it where then you get to spin a wheel for other prizes, which could have, $20 or $100 or something, so you can turn your $1 into something else. That was for the accounting firm. You get to increase the value, same like for a financial institution by coming to us. You get that.
I love that. Super smart. I like that. So for you, how do people work with you? How do people engage with you? How can people tell us a little bit more about how that happens?
Absolutely. So pretty much everybody either sees me speak or listens to the podcast first, because as you and I have talked about, what I'm doing is really new. There's not really anybody else that's doing this in this way that I know of. And what I tend to do is either workshops. Then I actually have a workshop coming up in the Seattle area up in Linwood on October 24th. And I did put together a special code for your audience. If you want that, we can talk about that at the end.
We can put that in the show notes too.
Nice. Awesome. So then I do virtual strategy sessions most often, which would be just like this, a call on Zoom, and somebody can come to me with whatever it is that they're thinking about. And they don't have to have a fully formed question necessarily, but I had a call earlier this week where someone was struggling with pricing, which is very common. I get that a lot, but you don't really know exactly what it is about pricing or what it is that you're doing, and being able to have me ask some questions or give an example of a way that you could be using the power of the brain to your advantage instead of it just being this sort of enigma that you don't know about. And so do that either through, like I said, a virtual strategy session, or I can do on sites for people who are interested, or if they have just a lot going on where we can see how everything's working together. That's really been beneficial for a lot of my clients as well. But for any of that, I typically just start with a 15-minute consult call. So if somebody goes to thebrainybusiness.com, you click work with me, we'll just start with scheduling a 15-minute consult and have a conversation to see what it is that you really need and how I can help you the most.
And I think for most people, especially people who are listening to this, they're mostly thought leaders, they're speakers, authors, coaches, consultants. They have their packages. And I think sometimes they don't realize that the only way that they know to put a price on it is to see what's out in the industry.
Exactly.
And it's wrong.
Don't do that.
First of all, one of the things I always say, and this is not even having the experience that you do, but I always say, first and foremost, it's got to be a price that you can say out loud that doesn't change your energy.
Absolutely.
Right? Because I know when I first got started, I was like, oh, it's so amazing and I'm so awesome and here's all the things you're going to get. And then it's like $500. Yeah, and people are like, what just happened?
Exactly.
Something shifted. And in that moment, you confuse them because the energy they saw and the energy that happened, there's something's off and they won't buy.
Yes, exactly. So episode 8 of the Brainy Business Podcast, What is Value? I talk about this exactly. And there's a restaurant that's selling grilled cheese sandwiches. Seriously, a grilled cheese sandwich, tomato soup, $214.
Did you see that on Martha Stewart's?
I know, right? She was just on Chopped, I know, and they had all these high quality ingredients.
Yeah, no, she and Snoop have a show, and we like to watch it at night, and it's hilarious.
It is.
And they just showed that there was like a 200, because they were making grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup, and that's exactly what they were talking about. I was like,
no, that is so funny. I have seen that Martha and Snoop cooking show. It is very funny. It's very conundrum, I guess. The two of them juxtaposition, I guess, is the right
for sure.
It's such a strange concept. So but this grilled cheese sandwich is just this crazy situation. And they also have a $1,000 sundae that they offer there. It's a vanilla sundae. I mean, why is this even it's crazy, but people buy them. But the thing is, not everybody buys. Most people don't buy the $1,000 sundae or the $200 grilled cheese, but their entire restaurant is able to upcharge everything else because now you've set this really high anchor that shows, well, if they have the quality on this item, it must be great quality throughout. So I'll just get the $80 lobster.
Yeah, right. $40 grilled cheese sandwich with Wonder Bread.
Yeah. So it's how you set that up. I also have a really cool example about Tahitian black pearls, and there was no market for them until they put an astronomical price tag for no reason, and then people wanted them when they were hard to get. Scarcity is a really fascinating concept for how all of that works. So it's a really fun episode. I really like it. So I would highly recommend checking out episode 8 of the book.
I love that. Well, it has been so much fun picking your brain, getting to hear more. And, I definitely want to sit down with you and look at all my pricing, because if you don't have someone else to look at it, who's going to look at it? Right. I went from entrepreneurs and I do a lot with corporate, and I'm like, but I don't know what's out there, and nobody shares those prices out there. So you couldn't even look online to even figure out. Exactly. So it's figuring out, and I also have to figure out what can they just swipe their card for? Or what do they have to get approval for? There's so much more to it, but I would love to sit down and be able to do something like that, because I think having someone else's eyes on your stuff is powerful.
Absolutely. And I do offer, so we can do a strategy session where we're talking, but if you have something ready to go, like you said, you're pricing and you say, this is what I'm giving, or this is the website, you can send that over, and then I review and I make a video. So we don't have to have time on your calendar and showing, I would change this, move this, do this. Here's the concept. I send you the full video, and then you're good to go.
I love it. We're totally doing that. And nice. I will help you get that TEDx as well.
Awesome. Sounds great.
Well, thank you so much for being here. They will find out more about what was the website?
thebrainybusiness.com.
Awesome. I'll put those things in the show notes. We'll also get you the code for the October 24th event as well. I will be back in town, so I will definitely want to go to that.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for being here. I just really appreciate all the things you're doing, and you really are on the leading edge of thought on this topic. So thank you so much for doing this.
Yes, thank you so much. And so, the code is transform in case that
Nice.
fitting for you.
Of course.
Yes.
I love that. Again, always be, putting those seeds in there. I know.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Check us out on the next episode, and we will see you on stage.